I got in bed then, and I thought, I'm just going to die here. And I looked at my phone, it was like, Justin Bieber says, let's hope the NHS do it. Coca-Cola rang me up and said, we want to do the biggest 1 minute brief you've ever done. But I think in the meantime of that, we were in the computer rooms, and we just said, should we do a 1 minute brief?
From Ministry of Work, welcome to Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds, the show about Greater Manchester's pioneers, entrepreneurs and visionaries, and the stories that brought their ideas to life. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and on today's show we chat to Nick Entwistle, founder of 1 Minute Briefs, an online creative community built around the power of fast, instinctive ideas. What began as a playful uni experiment quickly grew into a global platform, sparking viral campaigns and collaborations with brands like the NHS, Coca-Cola, PG Tips and WWF. Nick's story goes far deeper than advertising. At just 26, he suffered a heart attack, an experience that reshaped his priorities and deepened his belief in creativity with purpose.
Well, I was born in Stockport and lived there all my life up until a few years ago when I moved into Manchester city centre in Ancoats. And in terms of, I went into a Stockport school, Werneth School, I was always quite good at school academically, and my teachers were very much pushing me towards that sort of route. And when I said I was going to do graphic design at college, at Stockport College, they were like, "No, you're not." and luckily, my mum was supportive of me doing that because they wanted me to go in that sort of direction, to go maybe do law and things like that, because I was quite good at English and history and things like that. So they wanted me to do that stuff. Went to do this thing at Stockport for 2 years, and then went on to Stockport for university as well. It was for Liverpool John Moores Uni, and did 3 years there with a great course, and then they pushed me to make contacts out in the industry. So I was fairly industry ready as I sort of went out there.
It's amazing that you had the choice from an academic point of view. Like I say, the teachers may be pushing towards the obvious roles, doctor, lawyer, whatever it might be. Did that feel like quite a conflict at the time? Because you don't have to get people who are like maybe super academic who then go, I'm going to sod that all off and go creative, because obviously the academic route is the safe one to a decent wage, right? That's the logic.
I think, it was quite difficult because I was actually part of a group in school called Able Pupils. It was the top 6 students in the school.
Right.
And I hated that. I really... I didn't want to be seen as sort of maybe different in that respect, and we used to have to go to meetings and things, and I thought it was quite an uncool thing to be part of.
Yeah.
And they pushed me to we went on a trip to Cambridge University actually, so they're trying to push me into that sort of direction. And then when I was choosing to go to Stockport College, I literally had teachers coming up to me saying, "No, you can't do that. That's not the right way to go."
Wild,
so it's quite.
When you look back now as an older, but elder in the years, when you look back, you go, really, that's the wrong sort of pressure. On
It was a lot of pressure really, because I knew I enjoyed maybe the graphic design and art, and I was okay at it. I was probably better at the other things, but my actual interest was in being creative. So, I mean, when I went to do my work experience in your final year of school, I went to an architect's place. So again, that would be maybe 7 years at uni or something to become an architect. And I went because I was kind of being pushed in these directions. I thought that might be a creative way.
Yeah, because that's like slightly creative, but not that creative.
Exactly. And I went there and I sort of half enjoyed it, but I was a little bit. I could sense myself being a bit bored by it when I was in this place. But we went on a site visit to McCann, Manchester,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you've been there with the big oval spaceship building in the middle of the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So they designed, this architect I was at, they actually designed this building. So we were going along to it to survey the angles of the glass and the thing, and whether it had all been built correctly, which was, half interesting. But I was looking through the windows, all the adverts and the ideas for posters and TV adverts and things, and I was like, oh, that's what I want
That's
to do.
the bit that interests you, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that site visit actually really pushed me in the direction like, no, I don't want to go and do architecture or anything else. I'm going to go and do something that I'm a bit more interested. I might not be as good at it.
Truly creative,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah,
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost like you'd have been a great poster boy, right? If you'd have gone to Cambridge
yeah.
and done like one of our guys has gone to, but wouldn't have been true to you, would it?
No, I think that's what it was. I think it maybe came naturally to me to be able to be academic. I suppose the creative side, although I can come up with ideas and things like that, the actual graphic design and art, it doesn't come as naturally.
Mm.
But it was always just, even from being a kid, I would always be drawing stuff. In fact, I nearly went into car design.
Oh, cool.
Which I think may have had the same thing as the architecture, because you're not necessarily drawing pretty pictures of cars all day. But there were, I can't remember exactly, you would have had to have gone to Coventry to do that course, and I think maybe that thing, going to McCann and seeing the ideas and the headlines and things, the way people wrote, I think there was definitely something that sparked my inspiration in terms of going into that world, really.
Love it. And then obviously you go through uni, you then pretty much straight into industry then as a creative, right? And what sort of work are you involved in at that junior stage, and how does your career evolve from there?
Well, I think our course pushed us to go out into the industry, which I think a lot of other courses around Manchester, they don't have that one-to-one sort of support that we definitely got. It was a smaller course, but a lot of people have gone on to do quite well in the industry because we got that one-on-one support, and pushed to go out there and make connections before we'd finished uni. And we used to put a lot of pressure on ourselves within university to enter awards, and this was I met with my eventual creative partner at uni as well. So we'd put ourselves under pressure, and sometimes our tutors would tell us to not do so much because you're going to neglect your own final major project work and things like that. But we didn't really take that advice on as much, because. But I think it stood us in good stead to be industry ready, because as we know, when you get advertising briefs, you don't have 7 weeks on a brief. It's a day or 2 days or something sometimes. So if that, sometimes you've got to do it within hours or whatever. And that's where, started off 1 minute briefs at university as well. But yeah, so going into the industry, we had a good idea of the type of work that we needed to do straight from uni. Worked at Driven in Wilmslow for a couple of years, alongside carrying on the community of 1 minute briefs as a side project. Then left there and ended up working at McCann Manchester, the place obviously that I'd looked at previously, for a couple of years. And as you start to go into sort of the mid-weight creative sector, up until about 2014 or 15, I think it was, where we split as a creative team, which is a weird thing to do, because you've always worked together. My my friend James, who I'm still good friends with, and we work together on certain things, he then went travelling for a year. So that's where there was, like, I suppose, a bit of a transition in my career to think about what I needed to do in the future.
So obviously rewinding them back to university, you mentioned it briefly there. So you set up something called 1 Minute Brief. So what, to somebody listening to this who's never heard of it, what's that? What was the original idea?
The original idea was because we had so long on these briefs. I think it was in our final major project, and we literally had 7 weeks on a brief, and we both procrastinated quite a lot on that. I think some people sort of thought, this is what I'm going to do on the first day. And we just let it stir in our minds of what we actually wanted to do, because it was an open brief. And we would do this for a week. In fact, he did his whole major project on the final night before handing in and doing the show the next day. So, and he got the best mark in the class, literally.
Oh, really? That's wild.
I was fuming. No, but that's a true story, and I only spent maybe the last couple of weeks myself on. I found out what I'd wanted to do, but I think in the meantime of that, we were in the computer rooms, and we just said, "Should we do a 1 minute brief?
See what you come up with."
Yeah, and we didn't really know what that was at the time, and we were also on Photoshop. We weren't even sketching them, so we started to do these 1 minute, right, time ourselves. Sometimes they were funny, ridiculous, or sometimes they were really, really good ideas that have just come to you instinctively.
And so a 1 minute brief in the context is literally you've got an ad potential about a particular client.
Yeah.
What can you come up with?
Yeah. And the very first one was advertise Rolex. That's what we gave ourselves as the brief. And I can't remember the one James wrote down now, but I still remember mine was Roll X with an underscore next to it, like spend all your money on a Rolex, and you can just say you're an airline pilot or whatever. Now, Rolex wouldn't necessarily do that as a brief, but it was a different way of thinking that for some reason was in my head, like within that minute. And I still think it's quite good to this day as an idea that you could do something with. But we started to do a few more of these because we were having a laugh doing it. And then because we're in a computer room, the other people would, what are you laughing at? And then they would want to have a go at doing one. And then suddenly this almost like a viral way of doing it. So when we eventually took it to Twitter, when we were driven, actually, didn't know what Twitter was all about or how it worked or anything. We just thought, we'll just post the ones we've done on there.
Yeah.
No likes, no one cares, you've got no followers. And then I think we got to about 100 followers. And then one day we said, why don't we do a 1 minute brief of the day? So,
which at the time would have been quite a lot of work considering there's no followers.
Yeah, we were just doing it for a bit of fun.
Kind of
Yeah, just a little side thing. And so we did the 1 minute brief of the day to give ourselves the daily challenge almost. And then if anyone else wanted to do it, great. No one does it on the first day. And you think, okay. But then someone has a go at doing it. And then what we didn't realise is that it almost echoed that computer room. So us doing it, someone's like, I want to have a go at that. And then when they're posting, their friend will want to do it.
So you'd literally post a brief of what they need to do for that day.
Yeah.
And they'd do it the same day, and then they'd post and tag you in it, presumably?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then, so we then share that. So that goes back out to our followers, like, and then they might see it. Someone else has done it.
It's as well, then, isn't it?
Yeah. And then over time, that's sort of the amount of entries and their friends wanting to do it and the community, and then it starts to spread organically, literally worldwide, where people are coming back every day. My mum describes it as like a Wordle of like creativity, I suppose.
Like Wordle, yeah.
Just because you've got and you've also got a nice community of people, and it's a supportive place to share ideas. Also, we don't always get to be fully creative in our jobs, even as creatives. But this allows you to just have a bit of an outlet where you might be stuck on a really corporate brief or something, and then someone says advertise mangoes or something random for the day, and then you can just do whatever you want to do. And it can be quick, so even if it's a bad pun or something like that, it gives you
getting the juices flowing.
Yeah,
in it, really.
There's your mango entry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you need to, but it gives you that sort of safe space to be quite. I was talking about the other day. It's quite a playful thing going back to college, school, even where you were quite playful with your creativity and
it's like pure imagination. It's like it's imagination. It's purist almost, isn't it?
Yeah, and using your instinct, which more often than not, some people think differently on this, but I think you should sometimes trust your first thought. There's something there for a reason when confronted with a brief or a problem. There will be something. It's almost like AI, like it's just calculating your brain is giving you some sort of a. Why is my brain telling me to think that? And it takes me back to when someone said, compare the meerkat, sounds like compare the market. It was a ridiculous thought.
Yeah, correct, exactly. Some will have been laughed down, no doubt.
Well, there would have been that, or someone in the room went,
exactly. That's what I mean. There would be different reactions to it, wouldn't there? And then you wouldn't have expected to be. But
exactly what you just said there, when people are laughed down, which happens in school, college, uni. So what you tend to do is talk yourself out of saying it at all. And that person was brave enough, because we could quite easily have been, I'm going to get laughed out of the room here. I've had this thought. It sounds a bit like meerkat. What if you just invented a meerkat? But if you don't say it, what 1 Minute Briefs does is allow you to sort of say these things, and who knows where they could end up and the big campaigns that can come from it, which has happened, since.
Yeah. Do you want to talk us through some of those campaigns that have happened since then? What sort of stuff has it been responsible for?
Yeah, I mean, the first ever campaign we ever did was with Lucozade. So this is quite a few years into this being just a fun thing that we did every day with random made up briefs. And I can't remember if we got in touch with Lucozade or they'd interacted somehow and said, let's do one with you. So that was a bit of a pivotal point, probably in 2014 or something that was. And it was like, oh, well, if you're going to advertise a drink, or if you're going to advertise coffee, because we were doing a different advertising brief every day, why not advertise Kenko coffee or
rather than something anonymous, like an actual user brand.
Yeah, so we've never sold out from what it originally was. It was always the same thing, and it's an advertising brief every day. But yeah, the Lucozade one, and all the stuff that came from it was obviously, it was based on, I think it was Lucozade Energy or the orange. So it almost turned everywhere orange on Twitter at the time. So that was a bit of a pinnacle moment. And then the next biggest thing was we did the campaign for the NHS in 2015, which was actually that year. I don't know if you're aware, I had a heart attack that year in 2015. I was only 26.
Wow.
So obviously that was a difficult time in life, but that was a sort of turning point of my career, but also in life. So I think I'd left.
How did that come about?
Well, I was working at McCann Birmingham freelance, actually. So I'd left McCann Manchester at this point, and I had the MPA football tournament on the Friday night, but I'd been working in Birmingham all week, and I was also 1 Minute Briefs was becoming bigger and bigger. So I think stress and things must have played a part in it, but they can't really put things like this down to stress.
Yeah.
you know, that's something else anyway. But so I was travelling on a Friday night, rush hour, and then people are saying, "Oh, I can't play tonight," and all this. I've got to get the
of organising football.
Yeah, and it was an OM. I'd got a lot of t-shirts, the OMB thing, so I was trying to rep the brand and making this brand bigger, trying to fill a nightclub in Birmingham, which was probably a silly idea at the time, because I'm Manchester and more of the people are in London, followers-wise, and I thought, well, Birmingham makes sense, but I don't live near that. I was trying to...
It's neither in there, is it?
Yeah, I was trying to create this...
But I see the logic at the time, right? It's in the middle.
Yeah, I was trying to do the best for everyone else, really, but stressing myself out, because it was really difficult, and I'm doing this football tournament. So anyway, we were playing against all the other Manchester agencies. Got to the final, which I'm proud about, and then Mediacom beat us. And I remember... because I used to be all right at football at the time as well, so I was running around like mad trying to score all these goals and stuff. And I remember in the final just watching it all pass me by in like a bit of a blur thing. And I still remember it like slow motion or whatever. So it must have been just starting to happen then, or they were just really good. But yeah, I was getting in my car to drive. I lived in Macclesfield at the time, and. So I'm driving home as soon as I got in my car, I was like, I've got a wrenching pain in my chest and down my right arm, even though I've always been told it's down your left arm. So I had this, I was hanging out the car like that, driving all the way home, drove past where I was born in Stockport, should have stopped just to get home and stuff. But yeah, had a shower, took 2 Rennies, and thought, oh, I'll be all right. But then I thought I got in bed then, and I thought I'm just going to die here if I don't get up immediately.
That was like a real clear thought in your head?
Yeah, I just thought I was going to sleep to die.
Fucking hell.
I know, it's heavy. But it was then, my mum lived in Leicester at the time, and I've only recently asked her actually what I sounded like on the phone, because it went to voicemail. I said, look, I've got this pain in my chest, blah, blah, blah. I knew it was quite serious at this point. And I said, if anything bad happens, remember that I love you. Right, so she's got this as a voicemail. But she said recently, when I asked her about it, she said, your voice was like whispering. And I thought I'd sounded perfectly normal from my memory of it. But she said she could hardly hear me, and she asked her husband to decipher what I've said. Anyway, I got taken to hospital.
How did just that bit where you're feeling so bad that like how did you know? Like, how did you feel it was so bad? Because it's quite you've literally been running around relatively fit as a fiddle. Admittedly, then the game's sort of passing you by a bit slowly, but to then have that sort of clarity of thought to be like, I'm in big trouble here.
I think even on the way home, so all I could see was the signs for Stepping Hill Hospital. Go to this, and 2 weeks prior to this, actually, my old football coach had died at the wheel of his car of a heart attack. And I thought, oh, it can't be me. I was 26 at the time.
Well, in fairness, you wouldn't expect it, right?
Yeah, it was a horrendous pain, like serious pain. Like it feels like someone's putting a knife in there, and this pain wasn't great. So and then I thought, do I stop and get an ambulance? Do I stop the car, or do I just? I just remember driving home really quite slowly and stuff, and then I remember I had my football stuff in me, and that's when I took the 2 Rennies, because I'm like, oh, I've got Rennies.
That'll help.
Yeah, I've got Rennies. This might help or something. And obviously a shower, that makes everything better or something. But it was literally, I knew the pain was so bad, But I just thought I'll sleep it off. Sort of. I don't know what I thought. I'll just lie down, and it was just so bad. I thought this isn't going away. I've just got to do something. And then asked someone to pick me up to take me to hospital. And then got straight in, and then suddenly I'm on a drip, putting morphine in me and doing blood tests and all that. But I was also fully dressed, quite smart in jeans and stuff, and they were saying Friday night as well, and they were like, "What have you been doing? Like, what's happened?" And I said, "I've been playing football." I didn't look like I'd been playing football at all, but I actually had. And so they start asking all those questions, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, I'm just going to die in a second." They start asking what your religion is, and I was like, almost laughable, almost.
Yeah.
I think they've got to do that for blood transfusions if that happened or whatever. But and then so they said, "Yeah, you had a heart attack." Friday the 13th it was as well. Day before Valentine's Day. Yeah.
How do you react when they tell you that? Like, obviously, it's bad at the time, but then they've said, "You're 26, you've had a heart attack."
I don't know, it might have been the morphine or something. I was quite chilled about it, I think.
Morphine tends to help do that.
Yeah, I don't know if I was fairly okay about it. I don't know. For the next, I was put on a ward and stuff. Maybe it's just quite surreal, like trying to be okay about it and thinking, "Oh, it's just a blip or something." I don't know, but
did you put it down to how hard you're working, the stress you was under? Do you think, as opposed to like having a terrible lifestyle?
Yeah, lifestyle was good. I was playing football a lot and things, and wouldn't be the. And I did ask them about lifestyle because I said I'd been working in Birmingham and I'd not been eating great because he was living in a hotel, and they said, "Oh, we wouldn't expect anything like that to affect you till you're about 40 anyway." And I still don't really know I had a breakage in an artery, so as the blood's pumping through, it's trying to. So I have medication, preventative medication now. It's not necessarily keeping me alive as such, but it's just to stop, that type of thing hopefully happening again.
Does it play on your mind now? Because how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
36.
Right.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago now, yeah. Yeah, it does play on my mind, yeah. So it changes your perspective on things. I think that's why I initially mentioned it in relation to the NHS campaign, because the NHS had basically saved my life. So I wanted to, at the time, give something back, and through the community and things I was able to. I suppose this is another point in this as well, is where when this had happened to me, because it was a Friday night and I do a brief every day, on the Monday I was in hospital and I had no signal and things like that. So I was not able to run the brief as I normally would do. And I think news had filtered through to people a little bit in terms of what had happened. And then someone posted, create posters for Get Well Soon, Nick. And the brief ran itself for the community. And I think when I saw that, I was like, obviously it helped with my recovery, I think. But I realised at that point, wow, this community is very powerful.
A proper community.
Yeah. And not just this silly ads that, that there's something a bit more special about the community, where it didn't rely on me at that point. It became its own thing. And obviously all the great content and the posters were amazing.
You mentioned it had a lot to do with you then getting involved in the NHS. So obviously, put a lot of thanks to saving your life ultimately. So how did you get involved in the NHS campaign, and what was it?
Well, it was, I ended up, so confidence-wise, when you come out of it, you don't want to go and try and get a high pressure job in the industry. And
For sure.
I was doing a tiny bit of freelance from home. McCann Birmingham were great with me and said you would still like you to do a little bit and you can work at home. But because I was freelancing, I had no income, so I had to try and make sure I could afford my rent and things at the time. So they did that, and then there was a company, the Gate Films in Manchester. They asked me to come on board and be potentially their creative head, and I was also doing stuff at Big Brand Ideas. And at Big Brand Ideas, I said I was only doing a couple of days a week, but I'd like to be called your creative director. And at the age 26, I probably had no right to do that, but I wanted to. But it gave me a newfound belief in what I could do.
I was going to say, it must change your mindset, like, must change your outlook.
Yeah.
In a huge way.
Yeah, and I feel like things can easily be sort of taken away, so I try not to stand for anything that isn't something that I would either enjoy or feel like I can affect. And then this head of creative, I said, well, I had sort of done TV adverts and things before, but this was a film production agency, and I was not confident because of what happened, and also I wasn't necessarily confident in doing it, but I went in there anyway. The first day, the CEO says to me, we'd like to do a little film for the NHS. At the time there was government cuts and things. I'm like, oh, this is great, and then I thought, well, I could do some ideas and do something. What if we got the community involved in creating something? And then that was great in itself, but one of the ideas was based around sort of wedding vows for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer. So this idea, this JPEG alone got loads and loads of likes and shares and things. And then the NHS Choir got in touch with us and said, could this be our music video for this year? And of course, suddenly it's escalating. I'm getting under pressure and I'm thinking, oh God,
I shouldn't have stepped into this.
Yeah. But I'm in this role. I'm sort of freelancing at this point. But this thing escalates, this campaign, to the point where just using the experience of the community in the past and seeing how things escalate, what can we do next and things. So I went down and directed this music video down in London, in a hospital. Every single moment of it was real. The idea, for better, for worse, so every part of the script reflected what we were seeing on screen. And it was a very powerful film. I then did a campaign based on the wedding vows. Do you love your NHS? Say I do. And we asked our community to hold it up. So it sparked something, so the community can start things off, or
like
campaigns.
Almost,
yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
And so people are all doing it, that. But then I'm asking them, could you tag people in for them to do it and things? And then some people are tagging celebrities and people like Chris Evans on the radio, and Piers Morgan did one, and suddenly this is starting to take hold a little bit, and we went up in the charts. We started to go, oh, this was they wanted to go to an effort at Christmas #1, but they were like 40th or something, I don't know. But we then started to sort of rise in the charts, and above One Direction, going into Justin Bieber was dominating the charts at the time. Like all of the top 3 were him and stuff. But then at one point we overtook him into #1 spot in the live chart, because you can see it. And then I remember getting into bed actually, and I looked at my phone. It was like, Justin Bieber has tweeted, "Let's hope the NHS do it." I'm like, at first I was a bit annoyed.
Yeah, because you didn't want him to have credit.
I knew we were already. But then I spoke to. I think I got on the phone with the NHS director of comms, and it was like, you just can't argue that the fact that the most famous man in the world at the time has just endorsed you and supported you in, because he has his own views on that type of a NHS system. I think it's Canada, and it's quite similar. And he'd endorsed it. Then suddenly it's in the papers and on all over social media and things. And then we got to Christmas #1, and I've got the NHS #1 trophy at home.
That's cool.
But I watched that. I watched the music video directed that year. This had happened to me with my mum at my house in Macclesfield. I think it's before or after the Queen's speech. But obviously, that just really showed, particularly the power of the community, and the power of, working together to create a big goal. And I suppose it's then where you think, God, where do you go from there? Which is such a big thing. How do you take either those learnings or that experience and try and emulate that in different ways in the future, I suppose?
So obviously, that's like quite a crescendo, isn't it? What's that feeling like in the sort of weeks after? Was it a sort of like a bit of a buzz to do something as grand as that again, or are you a bit more level than that? You're like, right, that was a great experience, on to the next thing.
I suppose the nature of OMB being a daily thing, I'm always on to the next thing, so I can never sit back and enjoy almost anything.
Yeah, that's the entrepreneur's curse.
There's that. Yeah,
never pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, you just don't have time because the next thing is ready to go. Or I suppose it was a nice thing, and we went to the ceremony we went down to London and met the choir, and the choir met Justin Bieber in the end. I was gutted I didn't meet him because I'm a big believer, but they gave the bigger trophy, and there's only one other time. I think it's the midwives choir got these other trophies. I think there's only been one other time where contributors to the campaign get these little trophies as well. So I was quite proud to receive that, and I think it all made it quite worthwhile, because I do remember putting myself under a lot of pressure that year, where maybe shouldn't,
especially after that.
Yeah, I maybe shouldn't have done. But I think if I didn't, and I didn't utilise how great the community is and things, I don't think it would have been able to achieve what it did. And I think some of that happens now with campaigns. It wasn't a out of the box strategy in order to make that happen. It was more, this has happened, they've said this, let's react to it, let's do this campaign, and see where it takes us. And I think these days, what's the best that could happen? Someone wrote that on my Twitter years ago, but what's the best that could happen is a thing that I always refer back to, especially when thinking about the NHS campaign, but same again on all our bigger campaigns since as well.
And what sort of campaigns have you been involved in other than that, as an example? Must be some memorable ones.
Yeah, I think we've done one with WWF, World Without Nature, on World Wildlife Day for the last few years. And this again came from a 1-minute brief idea by a guy called Zed Anwar, and he had very simply taken the animals off football team badges and logos, and people were saying, "Oh, this is great," and I was
such a simple but
it's simple but brilliant. As soon as you see it not there, like, wow, that's an incredible visual. It's like, imagine if you could do something. And then it's like, you know what? Why don't we make that happen somehow? Don't know what this would be. So I messaged WWF and said, I think you should do something with that idea. At that moment, it was just a graphic, you know. And they said, in the next hour, we've got our big meeting for the next year's big campaign. Can you get something to us in that hour? Right, okay.
Of course we can.
Yeah.
We just did that in 1 minute, mate.
Exactly, yeah. I'll do 61-minute briefs. So I spoke to Z and we put this scrappy PDF together and said, this is what you could do with it. And imagine, again, what's the best that could happen? Imagine if, at the time, it was the Twitter bird. Imagine if they took the thing off. That was how big I was thinking just from seeing that graphic.
Yeah.
What if football teams played without the animal on the badge for the cup final, or whatever it might be? So yeah, put that into the meeting. And that same day, they said, we want this to be our big campaign for next year.
Jeez.
So we did it, ran it. Then you've got to start the hard work. Like, how are we going to get anyone to support this?
Yeah. And presumably so you've just kind of obviously ad hoc pitched a random idea at them. It's got right place, right time, which is often the key ingredient. And then when it comes back to you and they're like, we want to run this, is that almost then you're kind of instructed like an agency basis and you then use the community to help do it? Or how does it work?
I suppose, yeah. Because you only had an hour to say this is sort of what you could do and this is where it could go and things. And then I suppose you'd sort of be instructed as more of an agency. Yeah. I think the way I work with the sort of bank of creativity side of things, it's not your traditional typical agency. It's very flexible in terms of working with different production people. Obviously, the community. If we ever need any design stuff, there's always someone in the community that could do it. And obviously, we come up with these ideas collectively and things as well.
Because it's a bit like a cooperative, isn't it? In a way.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, and it works. Yeah, and obviously it was never built to be anything. So it kind of just. I never wanted it to be this big community or anything, but it kind of became that. And then with that comes lots of contacts with brands and out-of-home companies and film production people. So you've got a really good network of people to be able to do stuff. So, but then we try and do the 1 minute briefs way of starting something off, like let's contact the brands. How do we do it? We don't know what we're going to do it. And then I'm just literally emailing football teams. And you think, they're never going to reply to this. And a couple of them say, who else is doing it?
Oh, really? Interesting.
And it's like, I'm thinking, no one. But I would say, well, you could be the first. That try and big it up or something. And then Wolves got in touch and said, yeah, we'll do it. But then suddenly, armed with someone is doing it, and the people that ignored me, I can go back and say, just reply, just
FYI,
just FYI, Wolves are doing it if you fancy doing it or whatever, and then, Aston Villa start doing it, their rivals, and then I can then go to West Brom and say, you've got to do it for the Midlands. They're all doing it.
Yeah, it becomes quite territorial almost, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then they're all doing it, and then you can start to speak to other clubs from all different types of leagues and things. I got a bit obsessive over it, where I was asking the Frog and Bucket down the road to take their
themselves the bucket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I didn't really need to be doing that in that first year. But it was probably the best way to do it. In the subsequent years, I'd focused more on doing the bigger things.
Yeah.
And also we could go back to these clubs and say, we're doing it again. And they would support in a different way. So, yeah, I mean, that was, again, it just escalated, and it's finding a way of making these things happen that isn't your typical strategic way of doing things. But we found a way, and then utilising our out-of-home media contacts, we would then put these badges on billboards around near the stadium. So their fans are sort of involved in it. And it's location specific as well, which was great. And we had this media network all around the UK and worldwide, because there were international teams doing it as well. And then the reach of it, I think, was $1 billion plus. I don't know how it all works, but this campaign was just ridiculous, which is why they wanted to do it for the last few years. And I suppose things have their shelf life, and
Of course, they need to be.
so we did it for maybe 3 or 4 years. Not really done it this year, but I'm sure we'll be doing other things with it.
And that idea will probably come back round in the future at some point.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. And
that's an unreal.
Yeah, I think, and the other campaign was for a little girl. We did. She'd had cancer for 3 to 10 years old, and the family asked me, can we do a brief, because she needed to get £100,000 or something to get pioneering treatment in America or something like that. She's sadly not with us anymore, because she never got well enough to be able to take on such invasive treatment.
Yeah.
But we did raise that money. So we raised a massive amount of money from that 1 minute brief to then going making a film in only an hour or so, because we didn't know what the house was going to be like. I didn't know what she was going to be like, but she starred in this video. And it had 10 million views on Unilad and was in the Mail, the Mirror. It got on TV. But again, started from this 1 minute idea. And all it was a little poster. Just that escalated and became something much bigger. So there was that one. So there's 3. Those are probably the 3 most biggest campaigns, but because they started with this little JPEG and then turned into either film, or we'll sort of work out what will come next.
Yeah, what starts on paper, well, digitally, but effectively on a piece of paper.
Yeah. So it's always it's the spark of something. So sometimes people frown upon 1 minute briefs as a way of coming up with ideas, because traditional creatives think spend all day, or that advert's not great.
Yeah, there's got to be layers to it.
Yeah, layers to it, and or if I throw something out as a 1 minute, just if it makes me laugh or it's a bad pun, I don't mind that.
And you don't know what it could spark in the person who then picks that up, and they laugh at it and go, "That's a good idea, but the next version is this."
Yeah, and if we do that, just a couple of we start to fill a wall with ideas very quickly, and that's the way it's sort of worked with the community doing that. And sometimes, I've had we did do one with Coca-Cola rang me up and said, "Hi, it's Coca-Cola from Atlanta." I was like, well, this is weird. Like, we want to do the biggest 1 minute brief you've ever done. I'm like, right, okay, we're going to give you £10,000 prize money for the day. And this was ridiculous for us. And it really was the biggest one. It had 1,000+ submissions in the day. Twitter broke because it couldn't handle the amount of interactions we were getting, how viral it went. But all I was doing that day, I was in my dressing gown all day because I never got ready. And I was just retweeting all day.
Yeah, just pressing it. Yeah.
That was all I was doing, and reacting to things, and there was nothing glamorous about it. But it was just intense, crazy, and it just worked but it was amazing that probably a top 5 brand in the world rings you up and says, "We've seen this stuff, these campaigns that you do, we'd love to collaborate with you."
So cool.
But that was probably the biggest brand and biggest camp. I like to do the charity stuff, and I like to do the organisational stuff, because it's nice to make a bit of a difference, especially because we can do something different every single day. We can turn our hand to lots of different brands and things, some of which are going to be coming up soon as well, and then you get people see the campaigns you've done and want to. It's hard because you can't say that it's going to get 10 million views on Unilad, or you get to number one, or anything. These things just escalate, and you've got to just try.
Yeah, and see what happens.
Yeah.
You don't know, do you?
Exactly. Yeah. So
that's class. Amazing. And it's mad to think that obviously just started as a bit of a fun thing you did in the computer room at uni, and then what it's built out into.
Yeah. But I think that's why it's because if we're at university and we said, let's create a business based on 1 minute ideas, you wouldn't be able to. And I think because we did something fun for people, and it never changed, the consistency of doing a brief every single day has still never changed, and still happens, whether it's just for fun or we've got clients or not.
What I love about it is that reward for that longevity of doing the reps. Almost, because like you could have easily stopped at day 100 when nothing had really happened yet.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You've done it for years.
Yeah.
And these are the sort of things that could come out of that continuous effort.
Yeah.
Because I think people always look for the quick wins, don't they? And it's not always about that.
Sometimes
it's slow and steady reaps the rewards.
I just don't think it would have ever worked. I think if you were trying to make money out of it, because it wasn't for years, it didn't make any money whatsoever. It was something on the side. It was a bit of fun. It became something you were known for because we would get asked to go and do talks and things, and like I don't find it. We both, because James, who isn't really involved in 1 Minute Briefs anymore, but we co-founded it together. Yeah. We both did this talk in London, and we were scared to death of of what we were doing. But we also, we were doing things quite differently in an industry at the time and getting quite known for it. And I mean, on stage at the time, we actually, it was, do you remember the horse meat burgers scandal? Anyway, the Tesco agency CEO was in there, and we did a live brief at the end, and we said, right, you've all got a bit of paper under your chair. And it was like, right, advertise horse meat burgers. And it's like, but by doing something different that people are like, oh, I remember him looking at me.
Yeah, but
and laughing.
But it also gets everyone engaged, doesn't it?
And people loved that. And they were like, wow, this is something really different. Yeah, it was something really different, and it was getting noticed by the agency world, and obviously, helped me potentially as a creative as well. Some people would say hindered you if you're getting interest from all the agency world, and your agencies that you work with might not like that or whatever as well. So there's that aspect to it, but
it depends what you want, doesn't it? Like, it depends what your driver is. If you want to go join the biggest agency in the world or build the biggest agency in the world, that might be a consideration. But if you enjoy that side of what you do and it complements in many ways some of the things that you're also working on, then it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the way we worked, same way if we were going back to university days, it broke up our day a little bit as well, so we could take our minds off this intense brief that we're on or whatever, to have something else that inspired us as well, because it does inspire me, and the way people interact with it, and the
amount of creatives that are in creative jobs where they've got no creative outlet whatsoever. That's probably a spark in their day that they desperately need as well.
Yeah, we've all been on briefs like that, and not everyone also is fortunate to work in the big agencies on the big pitches for these massive brands. So it's important that people have a bit of the stories that come out of it, in terms of people's mental health and people that are getting big jobs from it and all that. It is, when it comes down to it, the whole thing, even though it's all adverts and things, it is the success stories of the people themselves, which are the most important part of it for me. And I've seen all sorts of great stories of people making great connections, people that have been the direct messages that no one sees, where people have said, I was. In fact, recently I had someone tell me that they were going to jack it all in, and not just the career, it was like the whole life. And 1 Minute Briefs should give them something back where they felt they belonged a little bit and that they could be supported in that, oh, my ideas aren't that shit. People like them, people share them, people respond to them. And I think there's a lot of that with O&B, and then that just goes back to the idea of the community. You know, they've helped, the community have helped me at times when I've needed it, like that heart thing. And I'm very much always there for talking to people on that level where they're stuck. You know, Z, who I mentioned, has been going through health problems at the moment, so I'm speaking to him on that level. And it's not just about an advertising business.
No, it's not about the creativity at that stage at all, is it? It's just human to human. It's the power of the community that you've built.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, it goes through peaks and troughs of where brands are, what budgets are happening, and sometimes it just won't make any money at all, but you've just got to carry on and keep it going and being consistent and hope that the things come back in, the brands or, you know, that type of thing. But the brands that have been brave enough to work with us have got massive impressions and loads of great content and a great engagement with a good, nice, supportive community, you know.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And then more recently, what sort of things have you been getting involved in?
Yeah, aside from the 1 minute brief stuff, I do tend to work on campaigns for brands, films. I've worked a lot as a creative director or a film director on adverts. So I've done some stuff for agencies recently where, I mean, we did some stuff for PG Tips where we did. I was in Denise Van Outen's house with Duncan from Blue.
Brilliant.
Which, as you
random day out.
As you do, yeah. I postponed my holiday to Australia by 1 day to do that, actually, and they were very appreciative because they could only do this day. So we did that. That was a fun one for PG Tips, and we did it with the Thomas brothers. More recently, in the last few weeks, I've done a film with Jamie Lang, who has just got a bit more famous for the big five. I think it's 5 marathons in a row he did.
Yeah.
That was a load of fun. It's been great to work with these people and do some fun content, and get involved in the script writing and the direction of that, and then seeing that go out there. So I've got involved in some of that, and then 1 minute briefs wise, we've done some campaigns with. You might see them on the buses and things as you look out the window, but it's for TaskRabbit, so there's a lot of song lyrics and things, and they're on big billboards, bus sides, 6 sheets and things like that. It's just everywhere at the moment, and it's just gone really well, as well as the big billboard next to Old Trafford, which we've got a good partnership with. So we've done a few of the big billboards on there for 1 minute briefs, as well as some other brands as well. But yeah, so there's stuff like that happening. We've done some campaigns with. We're about to do another campaign with Papyrus, which is helping young people, especially young people, against suicide. So it's going to be quite an important thing. We've done a 1 minute brief with them, and we're going to be doing some film content with them, and hopefully billboards and things as well. Yeah, there's a few things in the pipeline. Potentially doing some other film stuff coming up, but trying to balance life things alongside this sort of entrepreneurial thing. So it's not been the best couple of years personally. So coasting along a little bit and allowing the work to come to you, which is a bit of a luxury, I suppose, if you're in that position, but you've got to trust that the next thing is going to come in.
Yeah, and I think you definitely should trust in it, and also giving yourself some grace when it is tough. Like if you have got things going on, people need to also realise you don't have to be going hell for leather. Like you can take your foot off the gas a little bit and give yourself a break ultimately. Is there anything that you've been doing to try and like fulfill you creatively alongside it? Is there anything that you've turned your hand to recently?
I've been doing art. I've been doing an art project called the Wheel Trim Shady, and that is essentially just a thing that, to be fair, it's been quite good for well-being, mental health, because it shuts you off from the thing. But essentially, what it is I saw a wheel trim at the side of the road. I love cars and I love art and being creative, so I just thought I'll just paint this one wheel up.
Just go pick it up off the road.
I looked so weird doing it, but since then you see so many, and then I end up. Someone spotted me the other day that knows me. Actually,
like you on Twitter.
Yeah.
Look at this loser.
They saw me picking this wheel trim and sneaking it into my boot, and I'm like, oh.
What's that? One man's trash is another man's
exactly.
trash. Yeah.
And it became a thing, and then I can't claim the name, so big up Jack Goodwin for the wheel trim shady name. That just stuck, and then created an Instagram for it. Now I get asked to do car shows with it, and it's just by creating something, and these things start to escalate. And now I've done a couple of exhibitions. I've got a big art installation in the middle of Stockport on an outside wall. There's about 150 of them. Yeah, it looks great, and it became this thing that I could then bring my experience of community into as well. So I was able to then get local artists involved as well, so they could all be part of this thing, and then that allows you opportunities to do exhibitions in art galleries, and I'm asked to do, and then suddenly become called an artist, which I find quite odd.
Why, out of interest?
But I just think because you've never been called it, when I see artists,
you feel like you're sort of, I don't know, imposter syndrome, or
I don't know if it's that. It's more like, yeah, well, maybe
because if you're creating an art installation,
yeah, exactly, yeah,
I'd call you an artist.
I suppose it's because I've never been called that.
Yeah.
I feel like someone that is called an artist is an artist, but I suppose they have the same thing at one point or another.
Yeah.
They did some art, and then they're an artist now.
An artist.
Yeah, but it's given me a bit of an outlet. I mean, there've been times over the last couple of years where I could really have done with focusing on the business, and I've been painting wheel trims. Not earning any money, not sending it like.
Do you know, is that not sometimes though? Because you do need, like, you might not need it from a business point of view, but you do need it from a personal point of view, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. I think you need to,
because it's not all about chasing business and everything else.
If you can, yeah, essentially, all the money and things, you can start chasing money and business, but if it ultimately starts to take control over you, particularly at times in life where you're struggling for motivation, or there's things, because there's been things going on with family and things over the last couple of years, which have been very difficult. So if you're relentlessly chasing work and things in the midst of all that, you're going to probably just burn yourself out, and you're going to implode, sort of thing. So it's important to take a step back and actually just allow yourself to be a little bit, and then also trust that the work that you've put in over the years will continue to stand you in good stead, and the work will come in. And obviously, hopefully if the films that I've done are all right, and you'll hope that you'll get another one, or you can at least say in the future, if you want to step back in a little bit more, which I've done a bit more recently, you have those things to say, I've done this for this company or WWF, or go to the sports teams or go to the billboard companies and say, we've done this for this person.
Got good pedigree.
Yeah. So you've built up this portfolio of things. For example, if you just wanted to say, right, it's difficult to take any time off because, especially with the community, you're running it every day for years. So it becomes a bit of a lifestyle. So you can't get away from it. You are a bit trapped. And you have to make sure you're still enjoying it, because if you're not, it's not worth doing anymore. But I've started to find a bit more enjoyment in it again, a bit of a renewed motivation, more so lately. When times have been difficult, but all the work that you've put into your career doesn't go away.
No.
So it's there to also fall back on, and utilize and yeah, I think that's what all you can say. It's the work that you've put in. No one can sort of take that away, really.
That's Nick Entwistle, founder of 1 Minute Briefs. Thanks so much for listening to the show this week, and please do make sure to click the follow button on your podcast app so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to check out Ministry of Work, where you can also sign up for a free trial day. This episode was produced, recorded and edited right here at Ministry of Work, with a special thanks to our studio manager Dan Brown and, of course, to you for listening. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and this has been Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds.